"You're not invited. Vanessa doesn't want you there." That's the text my son sent me, just as I pulled his favorite apple pie from the oven. The scent of cinnamon still lingered in the air when my hands began to tremble. I gave Nathan everything: $100,000 for his home, tuition for his son. I even paid their loans, 132 of them, without ever being asked. But the day I stopped, he looked me in the eye in front of our neighbors and called me a burden. I've spent 70 years giving, funding, and forgiving. But last fall, I did something radical. For the first time, I chose me. And in just 90 days, I reclaimed my power, rebuilt the bond with my daughter, and booked a one-way flight to Tuscany, something I never thought I'd dare. When Nathan smashed my wedding photo and yelled, "You're nothing without your checkbook," my daughter stepped forward, picked up the glass, and whispered, "You're everything, Mom." If you've ever felt erased by the people you sacrificed everything for, don't scroll past this. Watch. Before you give away one more piece of yourself, before we dive into everything, let me ask you something. Are you listening to this in the morning, afternoon, evening, or maybe in the quiet hours of the night? Drop the current time in the comments below. I'd love to send you a warm, timely hello wherever and whenever you are. I sliced apples for Nathan's favorite pie, picturing family laughter around his dining table. His text stole my breath. The cinnamon scent filled my kitchen in Willow Creek, Ohio, on a warm evening in 2024. My hands, creased with 70 years of care, moved steadily, peeling each apple with a flick of the knife. The oven hummed, baking the pie crust golden, while photos of Nathan and Lila smiled from the fridge, their younger selves frozen in moments I'd held dear. A farmer's market flyer pinned beside them fluttered as I opened a drawer. Outside, the cul-de-sac buzzed with neighbors chatting, kids biking before dusk. Henry's voice, soft from a memory, hummed in my mind. "Clara, don't let them take you for granted." I shook it off, focusing on the pie, Nathan's favorite since he was a boy. I wanted tonight to be simple. A family dinner at Nathan's townhouse, the one I'd helped buy with a $100,000 down payment when his restaurant dreams collapsed. My heart swelled, imagining us together. Nathan, Vanessa, Lila, maybe even Ethan, my grandson, cracking jokes. I'd always been the glue, the one who showed up with food, money, love. I pulled out my phone, fingers clumsy on the screen, and texted Nathan, "What time's dinner?" I waited, picturing his grin, expecting a quick reply. The phone pinged. "Busy, Mom," it read. My chest tightened, but I shrugged, humming a jazz tune from the radio. Nathan was always busy, wasn't he? Running his life, leaning on me when it faltered. I brushed flour off my apron, ignoring the sting. Do they see my love or just what I give? The question flickered, unbidden, as I polished a photo of Lila, her smile bright at 10, pigtails swinging. She hadn't called much since I missed her 30th birthday, tied up wiring money to Nathan for his restaurant. Guilt pricked me. Had I chosen one child over another? I set the photo down, my fingers lingering. Vanessa, Nathan's wife, never thanked me for Ethan's college tuition either. $20,000 gone without a word. I packed the pie in a tin, the foil crinkling, and told myself it didn't matter. Tonight we'd laugh, share stories, be a family. I'd have my seat at the table. The kitchen clock ticked towards 6. I checked the farmer's market flyer, its bright colors promising fresh peaches for next week's cobbler. I smiled, imagining bringing a dessert to Lila's place, mending our distance. My hand smoothed my lavender dress, simple but neat, the kind Vanessa wouldn't roll her eyes at. I pictured Nathan carving the roast, Lila passing rolls, Ethan sneaking a second slice of pie. The image warmed me, like the oven's heat on my skin. I'd spent a lifetime building this family. School lunches, late-night talks, checks written with trembling hands. Surely they saw that. Surely they'd saved me a chair. My phone buzzed again, Nathan's name glowing on the screen. I reached for it, heart lifting, expecting a can't wait, Mom. My fingers fumbled, the screen lighting up my face in the dimming kitchen. What did he want now? The jazz tune faded, the cinnamon scent suddenly too sweet, and I stood frozen, pie tin in hand, unaware of the blow waiting in those glowing words. 8 words on my screen broke my world. Nathan didn't even call. The lamp in my Willow Creek living room cast a feeble glow, shadows pooling on the oak desk where financial files sat in neat stacks. Outside, the suburban night was still, crickets chirping faintly, their hum amplifying the silence that swallowed me. Henry's old advice, "Love them but don't lose yourself," echoed like a lifeline I couldn't grasp. My fingers, still dusted with flour from the apple pie, trembled as I clutched my phone, Nathan's name glowing like a warning. I sank into the armchair, my knees buckling under the weight of his text. "You're not invited. Vanessa doesn't want you there." The pie tin, forgotten on the counter, gleamed under the lamp's light, its cinnamon scent now sour in my throat. My breath caught, a sharp hitch as I whispered, "How did we get here?" The words felt hollow, like they belonged to someone else. I stared at the screen, the letters blurring. 8 words. No call, no explanation, just a cold dismissal from my son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd bankrolled. My heart didn't just break. It unraveled, threads of hope slipping through my fingers. Memories flooded in, sharp and unbidden. Nathan at 6, tugging my hand at the Willow Creek Farmers Market, begging for a second peach. Nathan at 30, eyes bright, pitching his restaurant dream, promising, "I'll pay you back, Mom." I'd written the check, $50,000, my savings dwindling as I smiled, believing him. The restaurant folded in a year, his promises dust. I opened the desk drawer, fingers brushing a worn diary, its pages heavy with my own handwriting. An entry from years ago stared back. Nathan promised to repay me. My heart sank lower, a stone in my chest. Had he ever meant it? I flipped the page, my hands shaking, the paper crinkling like dry leaves. Another entry listed more. $20,000 for Vanessa's real estate license, $10,000 for their roof. I'd been their safety net, invisible until they needed another withdrawal. I reread Nathan's text, checking the number, hoping it was a mistake. It was his. All right, that familiar area code I'd called 1,000 times. Vanessa's cold glances flashed in my mind, her pursed lips at last year's barbecue, her silence when I paid Ethan's college tuition. 20,000 more, gone without a thank you. My sacrifices, all those checks written with trembling hands, were invisible to them. I pressed my palms to my eyes, the crickets hum outside a mocking lullaby. Was I their mother, or just their wallet? The question clawed at me, raw and unyielding as I sat in the dim light, the diary open on my lap. The lamp flickered, casting jagged shadows across the files. I traced the diary's words again, Nathan's promises mocking me. Another entry caught my eye, scribbled in haste, Nathan's debts piling up. My pulse quickened, a chill creeping up my spine. What else had he taken from me? The crickets faded, the silence heavier now as I stared at the page, the truth just out of reach. Nathan called me a burden in front of neighbors. Their gasps burned my ears. The Willow Creek Farmers Market barbecue hummed with life that afternoon, the air thick with the sizzle of grilled chicken and the soft twang of a jazz band. Kids tossed frisbees across the park, their laughter mingling with the crowd's chatter. I stood near a picnic table, my lavender dress catching the breeze, trying to find normalcy after Nathan's text had shattered my world. Henry's warning, "Nathan will take until you're empty," pulsed in my mind, no longer a whisper, but a truth I couldn't ignore. I'd canceled 132 automatic payments, Nathan's mortgage, Ethan's tuition, Vanessa's loans. Yesterday, my hands steady as I'd told the bank, stop them all. I'd hoped it would wake them up, make them see me. Neighbors greeted me warmly, their smiles familiar from years of shared potlucks. "Clara, try this chicken," Mary from down the street said, handing me a plate. I smiled, the warmth of her gesture easing the ache in my chest. The jazz band struck up a slow tune, and I swayed slightly, clinging to the moment's comfort, pretending my family hadn't uninvited me from their table. Then Nathan stormed across the grass, his face twisted, eyes narrow. The crowd parted, sensing trouble. My pulse quickened, the chicken plate heavy in my hands. "Mom, what the hell?" he barked, loud enough for heads to turn. "The mortgage bounced. You trying to ruin us?" His voice cut like a blade, and I froze, the jazz fading to a dull hum. "I canceled the payments, Nathan," I said, my voice low but firm. "I paid for that house. Your house." He stepped closer, looming, and shouted, "You're just a burden!" The words landed like a slap, neighbors gasping, their eyes darting between us. My cheeks burned, but I lifted my chin, my voice shaking yet holding. "I gave you everything, Nathan. Everything." The crowd stilled, the frisbees forgotten, the chicken cooling on my plate. I turned away, my steps deliberate, the weight of their stares pressing on my back. In my car, I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. My phone buzzed, an email from the bank flashing on the screen. I opened it, my breath catching, an overdraft notice for Nathan's account. Thousands in the red. My fingers hovered, rage bubbling where hurt had been. Did I raise him, or did he erase me? I dialed Diane, my voice cracking as her line rang. "Diane, it's Clara," I said when she answered. "Nathan just humiliated me in front of everyone. I'm done being invisible." Her calm reply steadied me. "You're stronger than they know, Clara." The email stared back, its numbers cold and stark. A line at the bottom caught my eye. Large withdrawal pending. My heart thudded. Where was Nathan's money going? The jazz band's distant notes faded, the barbecue's warmth a memory, as I sat in the car, resolve hardening in my bones. Diane's story of betrayal woke me, but a neighbor's gossip lit a spark. Vanessa's spending wasn't my burden. The evening air on Diane's porch in Willow Creek, Ohio, carried the hum of fireflies, their tiny lights flickering in the suburban dusk. Iced tea sweated on a wicker table, its glass cool against my palm. Across the street, the coffee shop's neon sign glowed, casting a pink haze where neighbors lingered with lattes. My hand still shook from Nathan's barbecue insult, his voice, "You're just a burden," ringing in my ears. Henry's warning, "Nathan will take until you're empty," hummed like a bell, urging me toward secrets hidden in my desk. I sipped the tea, its tartness sharp on my tongue, and looked at Diane, her silver hair catching the porch light. "Nathan humiliated me in front of everyone," I said, my voice low, raw from the memory. Diane leaned forward, her eyes kind but fierce. "Clara, I've been there," she said. "My daughter didn't speak to me for 10 years, not after I stopped paying her way." Her words landed heavy, a mirror to my pain. She stirred her tea, the spoon clinking softly. "I thought love meant giving everything. It doesn't. You're not their bank." My chest tightened, anger flaring where hurt had festered. I nodded, gripping the glass, the cold seeping into my fingers. Footsteps crunched on the sidewalk, and Mary, our neighbor, paused by the porch, her market bag swinging. "Clara, you okay after that scene at the barbecue?" she asked, her voice soft but curious. I forced a smile, my cheeks hot. "I'll manage." Mary glanced at the coffee shop, then leaned closer. "Saw Vanessa there today, flashing a new designer purse, bragging about her fancy coffee sprees." My jaw clenched. My money had paid for that purse, for those overpriced lattes. I saw Vanessa's cold smirk in my mind, her silence when I'd funded Ethan's tuition. Mary's words cut deep, and the audience's indignation would match mine, seeing my sacrifices flaunted. Diane raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like Vanessa's living large on Clara's dime." She tilted her head. "Henry left you something to find, didn't he?" My pulse quickened, her hint stoking my resolve. I set the glass down, the clink loud in the quiet. Memories swirled. Missing Lila's 30th birthday to wire $50,000 for Nathan's restaurant. The guilt that kept me from calling her after. I thought I was helping, but I'd only built their cage around me. "I'm done being their wallet," I said, my voice steady, anger burning through my guilt. Diane smiled, her eyes bright. "That's my Clara." I stood, the porch boards creaking under my shoes, vowing to search my desk for Henry's secrets. Am I holding on to love or just their debts? The question hung heavy, my hands curling into fists as I stared at the fireflies, their glow no longer soft but fierce. Mary shifted her bag, her voice dropping. Vanessa was bragging about a big purchase, too. My breath caught, the words a match to my spark. What was she planning? The coffee shop's neon flickered, the fireflies danced, and I turned toward home, resolve hardening in my bones. Henry's letter sliced through my denial. He saw Nathan's greed long ago. Midnight cloaked my Willow Creek bedroom, the desk lamp casting jagged shadows across a clutter of financial files. Outside, the suburban silence pressed heavy, broken only by the faint hum of crickets. A slow jazz record spun on my old turntable, its mournful saxophone notes curling through the air like smoke. I sat at my desk, fingers trembling, driven by Mary's gossip about Vanessa's spending and Diane's hint about Henry's secrets. His voice from years back, "Don't let them take you for granted," lived again in my mind, urging me to dig deeper. I rummaged through the desk, papers rustling, my breath shallow. A yellowed envelope slipped from a folder, my name scrawled in Henry's familiar script. My heart stuttered. I tore it open, the paper crackling, and read, "Nathan will drain you, Clara. Protect yourself." I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. Memories of Henry's distant workdays flooded in. His late nights at the office, his quiet regret when I wrote checks for Nathan. He'd seen it then, the way our son leaned on me. Not with love, but with expectation. The letter detailed Nathan's greed, how my $100,000 down payment for his townhouse was demanded, not cherished, how he'd planned it with Vanessa's nod. My stomach churned, the audience's anger mirroring mine at this betrayal, my sacrifices reduced to their entitlement. I set the letter down, its words searing, and grabbed a notepad. My pen scratched furiously, tallying what I'd given. $100,000 for the townhouse, $20,000 for Vanessa's real estate degree, 132 automatic payments for their mortgage, Ethan's tuition, their endless needs. My hands shook, the jazz record's soft wail echoing my rage. "I was their wallet, not their mother," I muttered, my voice breaking in the quiet room. Each number was a wound. 50,000 for Nathan's failed restaurant, 10,000 for their roof. I thought I was building a family, but I'd built their cage around me. My eyes burned, not with tears, but with clarity, anger sharpening into resolve. The letter's final lines stopped me cold. There's more they hide. A cryptic note, scrawled in Henry's hurried hand, hinted at a deeper secret. My fingers tightened on the paper, crinkling it as I whispered, "No more secrets." I stood, pacing, the floorboards creaking under my slippers. I set the jazz record to repeat, its rhythm steadying my pulse, a promise to myself to uncover what Nathan and Vanessa kept from me. Was I their mother, or just their wallet? The question clawed at my chest, raw and unyielding as I stared at the files, their edges glowing under the lamp. The note's words burned in my mind. More they hide. What didn't Henry tell me? The jazz wailed on, the crickets fell silent, and I sat back down, resolve hardening like steel, ready to tear through their lies. Ethan's plea for cash hurt, but Vanessa's voicemail cut deeper. They planned to sell my gift. Sunlight streamed through my Willow Creek living room windows that afternoon, warming the worn rug under my feet. Across the street, kids kicked soccer balls at the community center, their shouts mingling with the hum of a lawnmower. A coffee mug steamed on the table, its bitter scent grounding me as I sat. Henry's letter still burning in my mind. His warning, "Nathan will drain you," had come alive, And now, with every receipt tallied, I saw my role as their wallet, not their mother. I gripped the mug, resolve steady, ready to draw a line. Imagine giving your all to your family, only to watch the next generation follow the same footsteps of entitlement. You won't believe what I heard next. If you've ever felt used by the people you raised, drop a 5 in the comments. We're about to step into that moment together. The doorbell buzzed, sharp and insistent. I opened it to find Ethan Carter, my 20-year-old grandson, his hoodie slouched, eyes darting like he'd been caught. "Grandma, I need help," he said, voice low, scuffing his sneakers. $5,000 I owe for stuff. New phone, parties. My heart sank, seeing Nathan's shadow in him, but I kept my face calm. "Ethan," I said, leaning against the doorframe, "my love isn't cash. There's a job at the community center. Filing, coaching kids, take it." His jaw dropped, but then he grinned, a flicker of respect. "You're not like Mom," he said, glancing away. "She'd just yell." My chest warmed, his loyalty catching me off guard, a spark of hope in his young voice. I stepped back, gesturing him inside, but my phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up. I picked it up, frowning at a voicemail notification from Vanessa. My fingers hesitated, then tapped play, her voice spilling out, cold and clipped. "We'll sell the townhouse, Nathan. Keep Clara out." My hands shook, the mug nearly slipping. The townhouse, my $100,000 gift, poured into their dream home, was theirs to discard, my name erased. Vanessa's words, laced with greed, proved Henry right, and I imagined the audience's fury matching mine, her betrayal a slap to my years of sacrifice. She'd grown up scraping by, her hunger for status now clear, but I'd been her bank, not her family. I pressed replay, the voicemail's hiss sharp in the quiet room, my anger flaring into empowerment. Ethan watched, his brow furrowed. "What's that, Grandma?" he asked, stepping closer. I set the phone down, my voice firm. "I'm done fixing your messes, Ethan. Your parents, too. They're selling the house I paid for." His eyes widened, and he nodded, slow and thoughtful. "You're tough," he said, almost proud. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, planning to confront Vanessa, my resolve ironclad. "They've taken enough," I said, more to myself than him. I walked to the window, the community center's soccer game a blur, my mind racing. Did they think I'd never hear their truth? The question seared, my hands steady now, ready to fight for my place. The voicemail's final words echoed. "Buyer meeting soon." My pulse spiked, the kids' shouts outside fading. Who was buying my gift? I turned back, Ethan still at the table, his coffee untouched, and I knew the confrontation was coming, my truth sharper than their lies. Nathan smashed my wedding photo and my heart hardened. Lila's tears gave me hope. The evening air in my Willow Creek kitchen carried the sharp scent of brewing coffee, its warmth clashing with the tension coiling inside me. A farmer's market basket sat on the counter, stuffed with apples from last weekend's trip, while photos of Lila smiled from the wall, her younger self frozen in pigtails. Outside, crickets hummed in the suburban dusk, their rhythm steady against my racing pulse. Henry's letter, tucked away since I found it, burned in my memory. "Nathan will drain you." His warning rang true now, Vanessa's voicemail about selling my townhouse still stinging, pushing me to stand firm. The back door slammed and Nathan stormed in, his face flushed, eyes wild. "Mom, turn the payments back on," he barked, looming over the counter, his cologne sharp. I set the coffee pot down, my hands steady, and met his glare. "No, Nathan, I'm done funding your life." His jaw tightened, and he grabbed my wedding photo frame from the counter. Henry and me smiling 40 years ago, and smashed it on the floor, glass splintering like my breath. "Your sacrifices don't matter," he shouted, his voice raw with entitlement. My eyes burned, the audience's outrage echoing my own at his cruelty, but I held my ground, voice low. "You're breaking more than glass, Nathan." His chest heaved, a flicker of guilt crossing his face, gone as fast as it came, his failed restaurant's debts driving his desperation. The front door creaked and Lila stepped in, her eyes widening at the shattered frame. "Mom, what happened?" she gasped, dropping her bag, her auburn hair catching the light. Tears welled as she knelt, picking up a shard. "I misjudged you," she whispered, voice breaking. "After you missed my 30th, bailing Nathan out? I thought you didn't care." I knelt beside her, my throat tight, and pulled her into a hug, her warmth softening my anger. "I see you now, Mom," she said, her vow fierce, loyalty shining through her regret. We stood, glass crunching underfoot, and I felt hope flicker, fragile but real in the wreckage of Nathan's greed. Lila moved to the counter, opening a drawer for a cloth, but paused, pulling out Henry's old watch, its silver face glinting. "For Clara," the engraving read, etched deep. My breath caught. Another clue from Henry, hidden all these years. "He left you so much," Lila said, her voice soft. My phone buzzed, Nathan's name flashing. I answered, his voice clipped. "Family meeting, Mom. Tomorrow." I gripped the watch, my voice steel. "No more games, Nathan." I hung up, the crickets hum louder now, my resolve ironclad. Can love rebuild what greed broke? The question lingered, my fingers tracing the watch's engraving, hope and anger twined in my chest. The watch's engraving glinted in the light. What else did Henry hide? The coffee cooled, the crickets sang on, and I stood in the kitchen, ready for the fight ahead, Lila by my side. Vanessa's push bruised my arm, but I stood taller. Diane's fire fueled my own. Morning sunlight filtered into my Willow Creek living room, glinting off the coffee table where financial files stood stacked, a fortress of truth. Soft jazz drifted from the radio, its saxophone notes weaving through the air, steadying my pulse. Outside, cheers from the community center's soccer game echoed, kids shouting over a goal, their joy clashing with the storm brewing in my chest. Henry's plea from his letter, "Protect yourself," echoed, a call to arms as I prepared to face Nathan and Vanessa's lies, the shattered wedding photo still sharp in my memory. The doorbell chimed and Diane stepped in, her silver hair catching the light, her eyes bright with purpose. "Clara, you're ready for this," she said, setting her coffee mug down, its steam curling. She leaned forward, voice low. "When I cut my daughter off, after years of her taking, I thought I'd lose her forever. But we reconciled. She learned to see me, not my money. Burn their expectations, Clara." Her words lit a spark, her own reconciliation a beacon for my fight. I clutched Henry's letter, its paper worn from my touch, and nodded. "I'm ready," I said, my voice firm, hope hardening into strength. Diane's smile warmed me, her pride a quiet anchor. Lila arrived, her auburn hair tied back, determination in her step. She sat at the table, sorting receipts, her fingers swift. 100,000 for their townhouse, she read, her voice tight. 20,000 for Vanessa's degree, countless loans, 132 payments, Mom. My jaw clenched, each number a wound, proof of my role as their wallet. My phone buzzed, Ethan's name flashing. I opened his text, my breath catching. "Vanessa's selling everything, Grandma. Be careful." I recalled Vanessa's push yesterday, her sneer, "You're nothing without your checkbook," her cruelty a blade that cut deep, the audience's anger surely matching mine at her betrayal. Lila gasped, reading over my shoulder. "They're selling your gift," she said, her eyes fierce. I set my jaw, Ethan's warning a jolt, his loyalty a flicker of courage in the gathering storm. I stood, stacking the files like armor, each one a piece of my truth. The jazz swelled, a slow tune that steadied my hands as I arranged the receipts. Mortgage, tuition, loans, ready to lay bare their greed. "They'll see me, not my money," I vowed, my voice cutting through the room. Diane gripped my shoulder, her touch firm. "You're not alone," she said, her pride clear. Lila nodded, stacking the last receipt, her determination mirroring mine. I glanced at Henry's watch on my wrist, its engraving. For Clara, a silent promise. Will truth break their hold on me? The question burned, my resolve unyielding as I prepared for the meeting, my allies by my side. Ethan's text flashed again, a new line. Meetings tonight. My pulse spiked, the soccer cheers outside fading. What was Vanessa hiding? The jazz played on, the files loomed, and I stood in the sunlight, fierce and ready, the storm no longer theirs to control. Vanessa's push left a mark, but her silence broke her pride. I held their secrets. The afternoon light in my Willow Creek living room dimmed as clouds gathered outside, the fireplace crackling with a steady glow. Receipts stood stacked on the coffee table, each one a piece of my truth. A slow dance song drifted faintly from a neighbor's yard, its gentle rhythm clashing with the tension coiling in my chest. Henry's warning from his letter, "There's more they hide," shone now, a beacon as I stood ready to face Nathan and Vanessa, their greed laid bare by Ethan's text and the shattered photo frame. My hands, steady despite the bruise on my arm, gripped Henry's watch, its engraving a quiet strength. The doorbell buzzed, sharp and impatient. I opened the door, and Vanessa swept in, her designer purse swinging, Nathan behind her, jaw tight. Lila followed, her eyes fierce, and Ethan trailed, his hoodie slouched but his gaze steady. Vanessa's heels clicked on the hardwood, her voice cutting. "This better be quick, Clara." She pushed me lightly, her hand grazing my bruised arm, sneering, "You're nothing." The words echoed her earlier insult, and I felt the audience's outrage swell with mine, her cruelty a spotlight on my undervaluation. I stood firm, my voice calm. "You don't scare me, Vanessa." Her eyes flickered, a crack in her polished mask, her fear of losing status seeping through. I gestured to the table, the receipts looming like a jury. "Sit," I said, my tone steel. They did, Nathan slumping, Vanessa crossing her arms, Lila and Ethan watchful. I held up a receipt, my voice steady. 100,000 for your townhouse, 20,000 for Vanessa's degree, loans, tuition, 132 payments, all from me. Nathan's face reddened and he shouted, "You owed us for our struggles." His pride flared, his failed restaurant's debts fueling his defiance. Lila gasped, leaning forward. "You used her!" Vanessa glanced away, her fingers twitching, insecurity betraying her composure. I stacked more receipts, each one a weight. 10,000 for their roof, 50,000 for Nathan's dream. "I gave everything," I said, my voice rising, the fireplace's crackle punctuating my words, "and you took it all." I paused, my hand slipping into the stack, pulling out a hidden receipt, its edges creased. What if you finally laid out every receipt, every sacrifice, only to discover they were hiding even more? This is the moment I stopped being silent. If you've ever had to expose the truth just to be seen, drop a 6 in the comments. We're going there now. "This," I said, holding it high, "shows Nathan's secret account, 50,000 withdrawn last month." The room stilled, the slow dance song fading, their silence screaming guilt. Nathan's eyes darted to Vanessa, her face paling, her vulnerability raw. Ethan's jaw tightened, his respect for me clear, while Lila's hand found mine, her pride warm. "I'm not your wallet anymore," I said, my voice a blade cutting through their lies. Did they ever see me? Or just my wealth? The question hung, my defiance a fire brighter than the one in the hearth, the audience's satisfaction echoing my triumph. The receipt trembled in my hand, a final line catching my eye, a transfer to an unknown buyer. My pulse spiked, the neighbor's song a distant hum. Who had their money? The fireplace glowed, the receipts waited, and I stood powerful, ready to burn their expectations to ash. I struck the match, and their lies burned. Nathan's guilt couldn't stop me. Evening shadows danced in my Willow Creek living room, the fireplace crackling as flames licked the edges of receipts, turning them to ash. The farmer's market apple pie, uneaten on the table, sent a sweet scent mingling with acrid smoke, a strange harmony that filled the air. Outside, the suburban quiet hummed, crickets faint in the Ohio dusk. Henry's plea from his letter, "Protect yourself," glowed in my heart, a fire of its own, hinting at a dream he'd left me. Tuscany, a place we'd never reached together. I stood tall, 70 years etched in my hands, ready to redefine my worth. Nathan, Vanessa, Lila, and Ethan sat before me, the coffee table a barrier between us. I held Henry's letter, its paper trembling slightly, and read aloud, my voice clear. "Nathan will drain you, Clara." I lit the match, its hiss sharp, and dropped it onto the receipts, $100,000 for their townhouse, loans, tuition, watching them curl black. "Was I your mother or your wallet?" I asked, my eyes locked on Nathan. He shifted, muttering, "You don't belong here," echoing his cruel text, his voice weaker now, eyes wavering with guilt. Vanessa's earlier push and sneer, "You're nothing," still stung. The audience's anger surely flaring at their cruelty. But I stood unbowed, the fire's heat warming my face. Vanessa leaped up, her designer purse clattering to the floor, her face twisted. "You'll regret this, Clara," she spat, storming out, her heels clicking, her fury a mask for her crumbling status. Lila rose, her auburn hair catching the firelight, and hugged me tight, whispering, "I'm proud, Mom." Her joy warmed me, her loyalty a balm. Ethan, slouched in his hoodie, nodded, his voice steady. "I'll work, Grandma, at the community center." His resolve sparked hope, his admiration for me clear. Nathan lingered, his shoulders hunched, pride cracked. He slipped a crumpled note onto the table. "I'm sorry, Mom," and left, his footsteps heavy. My heart flickered, his guilt a faint echo of the boy I'd raised, but I let it pass, my strength unyielding. I knelt by the hearth, sweeping ashes, the fire's glow fading. My fingers brushed a travel brochure tucked in the files, its Tuscany photo vibrant, rolling vineyards, golden sun. I smiled, whispering, "Henry's dream." My voice steadied, a vow to myself, I'm done carrying their weight. Can truth rebuild what lies destroyed? The question settled, my hands calm, the pie's scent now faint. I stood, the brochure in hand, empowerment surging through me, the audience's satisfaction mirroring my liberation. The brochure's Tuscany photo glinted in the firelight. Would I chase Henry's dream? The crickets hummed, the ashes cooled, and I felt free, my path clear, ready to leave their lies behind. I booked the ticket to Italy, and freedom tasted like wine. Lila's smile sealed it. Morning sunlight poured into my Willow Creek kitchen, warming the coffee mug on the counter, its steam curling like a promise. Travel brochures lay scattered, their glossy pages bright with Tuscan vineyards. Outside, laughter from the community center's soccer field drifted through the open window, kids shouting over a goal. A jazz tune played softly on the radio, its saxophone notes light and hopeful, a contrast to the packing boxes stacked in the corner, hinting at the change I'd chosen. Henry's dream of Tuscany, scribbled in his letter, lived in my choice now, whispering peace after years of carrying others' weight. Lila sat across from me, her auburn hair catching the light, her grin wide as I clicked confirm on my laptop, booking a flight to Tuscany. "Do it for you, Mom," she cheered, clapping her hands, her joy infectious. I laughed, the sound foreign but warm, my heart lighter than it had been in years. "Let's visit your new apartment soon," I said, sipping coffee, its bitterness grounding me. "Maybe I'll bake you that peach cobbler from the farmer's market." Lila's eyes sparkled, and she squeezed my hand. "You're my real family, Mom," she said, her voice thick with love. Her loyalty washed over me, a tide of joy after Nathan's betrayal, his cruel words. "You don't belong here." still echoing from yesterday's confrontation. The audience's frustration at his cruelty lingered, but Lila's warmth softened it, my liberation deepening. The doorbell buzzed and Nathan stepped in, his shoulders slumped, his usual swagger gone. His eyes, shadowed with guilt, avoided mine. "Let's talk, Mom," he said, voice low. "Not about money." I leaned against the counter, Henry's watch cool on my wrist, and studied him. His failed restaurant, my $50,000 down the drain, had built his entitlement, but now regret flickered in his face. "Earn my trust, Nathan," I said, my words firm but kind, my voice steady. He nodded, hesitant, and turned to leave, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood. I watched him go, my heart steady, no longer swayed by his pleas. The jazz tune swelled, its notes a quiet celebration of my strength, the audience's satisfaction growing with mine. I turned to the boxes, packing a sweater, my fingers brushing a travel agency email printout tucked among the brochures. I opened it, my breath catching, a confirmation for Tuscany with a note, Tuscan surprise included. My pulse quickened, a smile tugging at my lips. What gift awaited me? I hummed the jazz tune, holding Henry's watch, its engraving, "For Clara," a quiet vow. "I'm ready, Henry," I whispered, my serenity settling like sunlight. Is freedom the dream I always deserved? The question danced in my mind, my hands folding the sweater, the community center's laughter a distant echo. The email's surprise line glowed on the page, sparking curiosity. What awaited in Tuscany? The jazz played on, the coffee cooled, and I packed, my heart full, ready to step into my own life. Tuscany's sunset bathed me in gold, and I was whole. Nathan's call couldn't pull me back. The evening air on the Tuscan terrace wrapped around me, warm and fragrant as vineyards stretched under a violet sky. Wine glasses clinked on the wooden table, their ruby glow catching the fading light. Soft Italian jazz floated from a nearby cafe, its saxophone notes weaving through the chatter of diners, a world apart from Willow Creek's cul-de-sacs and farmers' markets. Henry's letter, promising peace, had guided me here, its words now fulfilled as I sat, 70 years etched into my hands, my heart serene, no longer tethered to the greed I'd left behind. Diane leaned back in her chair, her silver hair shimmering, her laugh bright as she sipped her wine. "Clara, you're glowing," she said, her voice warm, her friendship a steady anchor after years of shared coffee and secrets. I swirled my glass, the liquid catching the sunset's gold. "I feel it," I said, my thoughts drifting to Nathan and Vanessa, now squeezed into a small apartment after selling the townhouse I'd funded with $100,000. Ethan, my grandson, had texted yesterday, proud of his new job at the community center, coaching kids soccer. I smiled, picturing his grin, so like Nathan's as a boy before pride and failure twisted him. "They're learning to stand without me," I said, my voice soft but sure. Diane raised her glass, eyes twinkling. "To you, Clara, for choosing yourself." We clinked, the sound crisp, her support a mirror to my joy, the audience's fulfillment swelling with mine. My phone buzzed, Lila's name lighting the screen. I opened her text, a photo loading, a cozy room in her new apartment, a quilted bed, waiting, captioned, "Yours, Mom." On the shelf stood a framed picture of Henry and me, our wedding smiles bright, a surprise gift from Lila. My throat tightened, tears pricking as I traced the screen. Her love a thread stronger than Nathan's insults or Vanessa's push, those wounds now scars of a battle won. "Look at this," I said, showing Diane. She chuckled, her voice warm. "That girl's your heart, Clara. Always has been." I nodded, my fingers lingering on the phone, serenity settling like the sunset's glow. Lila's loyalty, her choice to see me, redefined family, a testament to maternal love that no check could buy. I texted back, "I'm coming soon," my heart full, the audience's satisfaction echoing my own. Another buzz, Nathan's name flashed, his call insistent. I stared at the screen, his voice from the confrontation. "You don't belong here." Still sharp, though his crumpled apology note had hinted at regret. I let the call fade, the jazz swelling, its notes carrying me forward. "I owe myself peace," I whispered, raising my glass to the horizon. To me. The vineyard's glow deepened, the cafe's laughter a soft hum. Is peace the legacy I was meant to leave? The question settled, not heavy but light, my hand steady, my joy complete. The audience's desire for justice, stirred by Nathan's cruelty and Vanessa's greed, was satisfied here, in my severance, my choice to live unbound. I leaned back, the wicker chair creaking, and sipped my wine, its tartness bright on my tongue. Diane poured another glass, her eyes crinkling. "What's next, Clara?" she asked, her voice teasing but curious. I gazed at the vineyards, their rows endless under the stars, and felt a stir, a new dream taking root. Lila's text blinked again. "Visit soon, Mom," her words a bridge to tomorrow. What was next for us? The jazz played on, the night unfolded, and I smiled, ready to find out, a chapter unwritten, waiting for my pen. The Tuscan sunset had promised peace, but Lila's text stirred a new journey. I wasn't done with Willow Creek yet. The morning air in Lila's Chicago apartment carried the sharp scent of coffee, brewing in a sleek machine on her granite counter. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, glinting off Lake Michigan in the distance, a far cry from Willow Creek's quiet cul-de-sacs. A photo of Henry and me, Lila's gift, sat on the shelf, its frame catching the light. Her text from Tuscany, "Visit soon, Mom," had pulled me here, a month after I'd raised my glass to freedom. Henry's letter, tucked in my suitcase, still whispered of peace, but now I felt a tug, a need to root myself in family redefined by love, not obligation. Lila bustled in, her auburn hair tied back, setting out blueberry muffins from a nearby bakery, their sweetness mingling with coffee. "Mom, you're staying a week, right?" she asked, her grin bright, her joy a balm after years of distance. I nodded, sipping from a mug, its warmth steadying me. "You're my home, Lila," I said, my voice soft, the audience's heart swelling with mine. We planned a day at the Art Institute, laughing over her stories of late-night law firm deadlines. Her loyalty, forged through our reconciliation, deepened my serenity. But a shadow lingered. Nathan's unanswered call, his apology note, a faint echo of regret. My phone buzzed, Ethan's name flashing. "Grandma, I'm visiting tomorrow," his text read, excitement clear even in pixels. I smiled, picturing his lanky frame, now coaching kids at Willow Creek's community center. His growth, sparked by my stand, was a quiet victory, but a second text followed. "Dad's been asking about you." My chest tightened, Nathan's voice. "You don't belong here." Still sharp, though his guilt hinted at change. I set the phone down, the coffee's bitterness sharp on my tongue. Can family heal without erasing scars? The question hung, my hand steady but my heart uncertain, the audience's curiosity piqued. Lila pulled out a map, circling Chicago spots. Navy Pier, a jazz club. "We'll make memories, Mom," she said, her eyes sparkling. I nodded, but my fingers brushed the photo frame, Henry's smile urging me forward. Ethan's text about Nathan was a micro twist, a ripple in my peace. What did he want now? The coffee machine hissed, the city hummed, and I stood, ready to face whatever came. Lila's laughter my anchor. Nathan's shadow loomed in Ethan's words, but Chicago's lights called me to live. I wasn't his to claim anymore. The jazz club's dim glow wrapped around us that evening, Chicago's skyline twinkling beyond the windows. Saxophones wailed, their notes sharp against the clink of glasses, a vibrant pulse far from Willow Creek's quiet barbecues. Lila swayed beside me, her dress catching the light, while Ethan across the table grinned, his hoodie swapped for a button-up. The Art Institute had filled our day, its paintings stirring memories of Henry's sketches, tucked away in my old desk. Lila's apartment, with its photo of us, grounded me, but Ethan's text about Nathan lingered, a crack in my serenity. Ethan leaned forward, his voice low over the music. "Grandma, Dad's been different," he said, his eyes earnest. "He's working overtime, paying bills himself, keeps saying he messed up with you." My fingers tightened on my wine glass. Nathan's apology note, "I'm sorry, Mom," flashing in my mind. His insult, "You don't belong here," still stung. The audience's frustration at his past cruelty echoing mine. I sipped the wine, its tartness grounding me. "He'll need to show it, Ethan," I said, my voice firm. Ethan nodded, respect clear, his job at the community center a sign of his own change. Lila squeezed my hand, her loyalty a shield, her joy softening the tension. A new song started, slower, and Lila pulled Ethan to the dance floor, laughing. I watched, my heart warm, but my phone buzzed, an email from my Willow Creek bank. I opened it, my breath catching. A request to reinstate one payment, Nathan's name listed. My pulse spiked, a micro twist that shook my peace. Had he learned nothing? Does regret mean change, or just words? The question gnawed, my hand steady but my mind racing, the audience's curiosity stoked. I closed the email, the jazz swelling, its rhythm urging me to hold my ground. Lila returned, breathless, her grin wide. "Your turn, Mom," she teased, but I shook my head, smiling. "I'm dancing my own way," I said, my voice light but sure. The email's request lingered, Nathan's shadow a test. What would I choose? The club's lights pulsed, the wine warmed my lips, and I sat fierce, ready to face his echo without breaking. Nathan stood at Lila's door, and my heart steeled. Trust wasn't given, it was earned. Morning light filled Lila's Chicago apartment, the coffee machine hissing as it brewed, its scent mingling with the faint lake breeze from an open window. The photo of Henry and me gleamed on the shelf, a quiet anchor as I sat at the counter, travel brochures for Tuscany still scattered from my return. Ethan had left for Willow Creek, his community center job calling, but his words about Nathan's change and that bank email haunted me. Lila's laughter from yesterday's jazz club lingered, her love a foundation, but a new challenge loomed, testing my peace. The buzzer sounded, and Lila frowned, checking the intercom. "It's Nathan," she said, her voice tight. My breath caught, his apology note a faint hope against his past cruelty. "You don't belong here." I nodded and she let him up, her loyalty to me clear. Nathan stepped in, his face haggard, no trace of his old swagger. "Mom," he said, voice low, "I'm not here for money." His eyes flicked to Lila, then back, guilt heavy. "I want to make things right." The audience's skepticism mirrored mine. His history of greed, $100,000 townhouse, failed restaurant, too deep to erase. I crossed my arms. "Words aren't enough, Nathan." My voice was steel, serenity unshaken. He pulled out a check, $5,000, his handwriting shaky. "First repayment," he said, sliding it across the counter. My fingers hesitated, a micro twist that jolted me. Nathan paying back? I recalled the bank email, his request to reinstate a payment, and narrowed my eyes. "Why the bank request then?" I asked. He flinched, admitting it was a mistake, canceled now. Lila watched, her pride in me clear, her own distance from Nathan a silent support. Can trust grow where greed once stood? The question burned, my hand steady, the audience's hope cautious but stirring. Nathan left, his step slow, the check on the counter a fragile bridge. Lila hugged me. "You're unstoppable, Mom." I smiled, but the check's weight lingered. Was this real? The coffee cooled, the lake sparkled, and I stood ready to test his promise, my path unfolding. Nathan's check was a start, but Lila's dream lit my way. Chicago held new roots. The afternoon sun warmed Lila's Chicago rooftop, its skyline sharp against a blue sky. A small garden box, Lila's project, held sprouting herbs, their earthy scent mixing with the city's hum, horns, distant trains. The photo of Henry and me sat inside, but his watch on my wrist ticked softly, a reminder of Tuscany's peace and Willow Creek's past. Nathan's $5,000 check, now deposited, was a seed of trust. But Lila's love and Ethan's growth were my true harvest, redefining family after years of sacrifice. Lila knelt by the garden, her hands in soil, grinning. "Mom, we'll cook with these. Basil, thyme," she said, her joy a spark. I joined her, dirt under my nails, laughing as we planned a dinner party for her friends, my cobbler on the menu. "You're home here," she said, her eyes bright, her loyalty a foundation. Ethan texted a photo of his soccer team captioned, "Thanks for believing, Grandma." My heart swelled, his resolve a mirror to my own, the audience's fulfillment growing with mine. Nathan's promise lingered, his check a fragile step, but his past greed, $100,000, endless loans, kept me wary. My phone pinged, a voicemail from Nathan. I played it, his voice halting. "Mom, I'm saving for another payment. I want to be better." My fingers tightened, a micro twist. Another repayment? I recalled his hesitation at Lila's, his guilt real but untested. Will family bloom from broken soil? The question settled, my hands in the dirt, the audience's hope rising. I didn't call back, not yet, but saved the message, my serenity steady. Lila stood, brushing soil from her jeans. "Let's plant more, Mom," she said, her dream of growth mine too. The herbs swayed, the city pulsed, and I nodded, ready to sow new seeds, my story far from over. Lila's rooftop garden promised growth, but Nathan's voicemail weighed heavy. Could I trust his change? The late afternoon sun dipped low over Chicago's skyline, casting golden streaks across Lila's rooftop, where her herb garden thrived in neat wooden boxes. Basil and thyme sent earthy scents wafting, mixing with the city's pulse, distant horns, the rumble of a train. I knelt beside Lila, my hands in the soil, the dirt cool under my nails. The watch Henry gave me, engraved, "For Clara," ticked softly on my wrist, a reminder of Tuscany's serenity and Willow Creek's scars. Nathan's recent voicemail, "I'm saving for another payment," played in my mind, a fragile seed of trust after his $5,000 check, but his past greed, the $100,000 townhouse I'd funded, kept my heart guarded. Lila's apartment, with our wedding photo on the shelf, anchored me, her love a steady root in my redefined family. Lila stood, brushing soil from her jeans, her auburn hair catching the light. "Mom, we're hosting that dinner party tomorrow," she said, grinning. "Your peach cobbler's the star." I laughed, the sound warm, picturing her friends around the table, plates piled with food from the farmer's market we'd visited. "I'll bake too," I promised, my joy mirroring hers, the audience's heart swelling at our bond. Ethan's text from yesterday, a photo of his soccer team, had warmed me too. His caption, "Thanks for believing, Grandma," proof of his growth. But Nathan's voicemail, his halting promise of another repayment, stirred unease, a test of the peace I'd claimed in Tuscany. I dusted my hands, the basil scent lingering, and followed Lila inside, her laughter a shield against the shadow of doubt. In her kitchen, the coffee machine hissed, brewing a fresh pot, its bitter aroma grounding me. Lila pulled out a recipe book, flipping to cobbler, but my phone buzzed, a notification from my Willow Creek bank. I opened it, my breath catching. An alert about a new account inquiry, Nathan's name listed as a reference. My pulse spiked, the memory of his earlier bank request flashing back, though he'd claimed it was a mistake. Was this another? The email's cold text was a micro-twist, a jolt that shook my serenity. The audience's curiosity piqued. Can promises hold when trust is thin? The question burned, my fingers tightening on the phone, my resolve wavering but firm. I showed Lila, her eyes narrowing. "He's got nerve," she said, her voice sharp, her loyalty to me fierce after years of his greed. 50,000 for his failed restaurant, countless loans. I set the phone down, the coffee mug warm in my hands, and looked at Lila. "I'll call him," I said, my voice steady. She nodded, squeezing my shoulder, her pride clear. I dialed Nathan, the line ringing, my heart thudding. He answered, his voice cautious. "Mom, I saw your missed call," he said, no trace of his old swagger. "I'm not after money. The bank inquiry, it's for a savings account to pay you back." I paused, his words heavy, his guilt from our last meeting, his crumpled apology note, echoing. "Prove it, Nathan," I said, my tone firm but not unkind. "Send the statement." He hesitated, then agreed, his voice low. "I'm trying, Mom." The call ended, the jazz from Lila's radio swelling, its notes a quiet challenge. The audience's skepticism, stirred by his past cruelty. "You don't belong here," matched mine, but his effort sparked a cautious hope. Lila pulled out mixing bowls, her movements brisk. "You're stronger than anyone, Mom," she said, her smile softening the tension. I nodded, grabbing flour, the cobbler a task to steady my hands. "Let's make this party shine," I said, my voice light, but sure, joy creeping back. We worked side by side, measuring sugar, slicing peaches from the market, their juice sticky on my fingers. Ethan texted again, a video of his team scoring, his voiceover cheering. "Wish you were here, Grandma." I smiled, his resolve a mirror to my own, his growth a quiet victory after years of Vanessa's spoiling. The bank alert lingered, Nathan's promise untested, but Lila's laughter and Ethan's pride were my truth, my family rebuilt on love, not checks. I poured the cobbler batter, the oven's hum a familiar comfort, and thought of Tuscany's vineyards, where I'd raised a glass to myself. That piece was mine, but Chicago held new roots, Lila's garden, Ethan's dreams, even Nathan's fragile steps. I glanced at the photo of Henry, his smile steady, and felt him with me, urging me forward. The bank statement, if Nathan sent it, would be a test, a chance to see if trust could grow. I set the cobbler to bake, its sweet scent filling the kitchen, and stood by Lila, my hands clean, my heart open, but guarded. The city's hum pulsed, the jazz played on, and I waited, ready to write the next page, my story far from over. The sting of Vanessa's voicemail still lingered, but setting a boundary with Ethan felt like reclaiming my own heart. Through the pain of Nathan's rejection and the weight of my sacrifices, I learned that love doesn't mean giving everything. It means valuing myself, too. Family bonds, like those I'm rebuilding with Lila, thrive on respect, not just generosity. And in life, we find peace when we listen to our own worth. Ethan's nod of respect showed me that change is possible, even in those we've lost hope for. If this story touched you, please share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Your voice matters just as mine has found its way.